Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to Equine's Town Hall number 43. Happy New Year to everyone joining us in this stream here. I'm joined by my lovely co-hosts, Maker and Marek.
Hi everyone. Looks like the tweeter actually sent a scheduled tweet for the first time since forever.
Nice. Hi GPS. Happy New Year. Hi Danny girl. Good to see you guys around. It's been a while. Hi Foxel Stables. Hello Tomo. Happy New Year, guys. Hi Recreator. Happy ETF week, Tomo says. Hi Vabanwo. Hi Miran. Good to see you guys all here. Okay, we'll be starting in a minute because we already started a bit late and we won't wait too long. Happy beta testing. Absolutely. We're getting there. We've been saying this for a while, but we are getting there. All right, before we get into this, I apologize. I'm not really feeling well. Obviously, this is a commitment we'd like to always keep. And being the first stream of the year, I really wanted to make sure I can join this. So I apologize if I don't make as much sense as I usually do. Before we go into the slides, I just have a very broad one. I would say, first of all, Happy New Year. Hope everyone has been doing well. We are back on track, is the macro message. After people taking a well-deserved break over the holiday period, and we're back to business and back to getting things ready for the upcoming beta. That's the macro before we get into the slides. And we will be covering update on visuals, development, marketing, as we usually do, and then we have a bunch of AMA questions, which we always appreciate. So on the visual side, the Racing UI implementation is ongoing. There's some bug fixes along the way. I think I shared in the last town hall where we had a switch of the development team, but I'm happy to report that we're very close to being back on track in terms of the momentum on the Babylon scene or on the 3D scene side of things. We have the race sequence. First of all, we already did the intro and outro UI part, which is already finished. The race UI, which shows the ranking, live ranking of the horses, it's almost done, very, very close to being done, which is to show the swipes of the horse orders, etc., along with the small mini map showing the progress as well in 2D form. And then we found a bug. Our dev found a bug while working on this, is that the 3D scene is actually showing horses finishing the race 10 seconds earlier than they should. it just corresponds to some scaling issue. We have a few ideas on where that might be happening. So we have an accurate race data, but then the 3D version is showing the race ending earlier than that. So that just popped up along the way. Nothing too difficult, we hope. And so we're working through that. And so the next steps are completing this UI implementation. And it's actually fairly close to, I'd say, being done. Number two is to update the scene so that it includes the riding jockeys, which it does not in its current version, and the correct animations, obviously. And there's also fixing the camera dynamic system. As I explained in the last town hall, that's one of the next steps for the 3D scene. These are, I'd say, the main ones that would stand against, let's say, having something that's in an acceptable form to be used, I would say. Other than this, there's a bunch more polishing. There's the whole audio implementation, which we have sound effects created for but not implemented, and so on. But these are our next imminent, let's say, steps for the 3D scene. On to the development side, Nick, please.
Yep. Our game designer has been making a full schedule of races with a lot of different, race classes and having a nice spread of everything. And we've actually sent that up to the test server, and the races are getting scheduled. So currently there's like a few, like there's over 50 races available right now on the test server. So yesterday I was able to actually use the demo website the demo UI to send a horse into the smart contract. So we're debugging and implementing like the actual UI usage of the API and the smart contract interaction. So that's what we're doing right now. There are a few hurdles that the design was slightly different when we met it in the UI. So we're still working on a few things here. In particular, the My Races filter. Basically, you want to be able to see all the races where you have a horse in there, that you've sent a horse in there. But we hadn't explicitly said how we would do that. And so my dev just didn't do anything. And when we spoke about it, we realized that usually what you do is you look at your horses in your wallet to figure out what's going on. But once it's in the smart contract, it's not in your wallet. So there has to be a way to say, here's my wallet. Can you show me my horses that are already in the smart contract? So we did that. We did that, and we made that possible. And then we put that in the database in a clever way where it's kind of easy to just state your staking ID or your payment credentials and find your horses in the smart contract, so that you can easily find which races you already have a horse in, either to scratch or to just see where your horses are, or the race is over and you want to get back your horse and your money, your winnings, hopefully. So that was easy in theory, but we had not thought about how to implement it exactly. So now we did. We put that in the code, in the database, in the API, and everywhere, so you can find your horses again once they're in the smart contract. That seems trivial, but it was funny when we actually met that detail, and we're like, well, once your horse are in the smart contract, how do you know where they are? It was a funny moment. Not a hard thing to do, just funny. And yeah, that's it. I said that I actually registered a horse to a race. So now I'm going to look at maybe scratching it, then send another horse in and let the race time out, and send a horse in and maybe try to send at least 4 horses in so that the race is valid and have the race actually simulate, and then we could get our winnings back. So those are the next tests. Barring weird errors, I should have a report for you guys for the next town hall where I say, hey, we actually simulated the first race using the UI and everything. So that should be done in 2 weeks for sure, except barring exceptional bugs and errors. That's it for the dev.
That's good. Thank you. Mark, before I jump into marketing, if you don't mind, I will do one of my improvised sharing things. I owe you guys this in a more pretty form, but since I will not go through the whole thing, this is just a preview. But just to show you guys what we will be putting out soon. It's been a bit delayed due to the holiday season, but we will be getting that out. So this is a guide that we have for the racing system. It covers the race classes, explains them, race distances. I know that many... Craig is putting eyes. So Craig has actually worked hard on this, and we've gone through this quite a lot, actually. So this is meant to go out in a prettier form soon, but this is what's going to explain the distances, racing point system, how RPs are going to count, their classes and what they're meant to represent, feature races, how they work versus instance races, and then race types, maiden races, handicaps, conditions, and explaining the rules, examples, reasoning for each of them and how they kind of work. And it also includes handicap weights with examples of the weights based on the RPs for those races and the boundaries for each class. I'm kind of skimming through. But yeah, just saying that this has actually been ready by Craig for a bit, and is due for release in a prettier form. This is more of just a very crude text format. So we'll put that out in a different style. Aging, age groups, and the race categories for these, basically, as well as the weight for age effect. So yeah, this is just I wanted to share this before we go on to marketing as one more thing that's actually made progress, and we look forward to share afterwards. All right, on to marketing. Thank you, Mark, for the patience.
Yeah, so just very quickly, this month we have a relatively simple month with the 2 town halls and the invitational. We are still aligning on the final details, so we'll share them soon, but we think we will do one class, maybe slightly different than usual, something in between where there's a lot of horses, to give chances for people to play. We will share the Google form in the week of 15th, and the final will be streamed at the end of January. And then the usual prize money will be there, right? The 1,000 ADA for the winners. So yeah, the calendar has been already shared. I think it's on the next slide. So you can find it in the Discord. And yeah, this one is quite quick. We are working on a few other things, but at this point we wanted to make it relatively simple from the marketing side.
Yeah, and we're waiting for Rachel to come back. She's
yes.
been dearly missed.
Yes, if you haven't noticed, Rachel has been on the well-deserved holidays for like last 5 weeks. So we've been trying to keep you all updated. Thanks to all the great job she did before by preparing all the tweets and stuff. But obviously, with her being back, we will definitely have way more activity and ideas coming in.
Yeah, everyone else is already back in full force, so she'll be the let's say last to complete the full team resuming. So we look forward to that as well. All right, and then we can go into the AMA. Do you have anything else to share, Mark, before we go in?
No, at this point. Just a quick one.
Okay, so will equine horses have analytics/charts in the app? For example, race results based on distance. It's a good question. We do want to have some basic level of analytics. We also don't want to be determining what are the most important analytics. We want to leave also room for the community to drive their own analytics. What it's been about is decentralization to the extent possible, and that also means having the race data available through whether it's through an API or through the blockchain at different levels of detail, And we also want, basically, if anyone and whoever wants to build a platform for that, to also be able to build a platform for analytics, so that there's much more room in how those go. Because obviously people have different opinions on what, considering that the game system allows for this speculation and what matters the most. And you see people, even in a game as simple as Lovelace Downs, coming up with, and this is a shout out to SSE parameter and how people evaluate that, for example. You see that people have different views on what to assess in their analytics. So we don't want to drive the game by defining our own parameter that people prioritize. We'd rather leave room for people to also come up with their own, basically. So that's, I hope that does answer. Yeah, race results based on distance, etc., are important. What we have as the most basic version is simply just a career. Basically, how many run versus wins and runner-up placement. But the next, let's say, level of analytics is something I think is worth building, but we don't have, let's say, very detailed analytics system to be, at least in the early phase of Equine. Right?
But we have. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
We have all that info in the race. Basically, you can go in your horse. You will see the list of races that you've completed, and so you could easily just gather all the race information from all those races, and then gather this analytics data or charts. So that could be added at some point in the horse details. When you click on a specific horse and you look at your race data and everything, at some point we could just add a lot of analytics and charts. That's not in the cards for version 1, like the first time that Equine comes out, but that's totally something that could be added.
Absolutely. When a pioneer horse is reborn, it gets new stats, but does it get new DNA too? Yes, I mean, stats are linked to DNA. So yeah, it will be new DNA, different stats comes with the new DNA. Stats are derived from the DNA. So you cannot have different stats without having different DNA.
Yeah, basically there's two things, right? There's inborn stats, which define your horse a lot. And then there's training stats, which can slightly alter your horse development throughout the years. But the inborn stats come directly from DNA. So yes, to get a random horse, basically you get a random DNA horse. That's the point, right? So you could get anything. You could get different colors. You could get different stats, different everything.
Great. Photo finish, copyright, provides provides a free training course to new players, allowing them to participate in dummy races. Does Equine have similar plans to onboard new players in a cost-friendly way? Maintenances that are used to place horses in classes could be free with nothing to win. Yeah, the moment we saw that concept being announced by Photo Finish, I think we were fairly impressed by the concept. I think it's a nice way to onboard players. We did also consider whether that's a good way to approach this. We've actually, me and Craig also, this I think before the weekend or during the weekend, we had a good chat about a few other onboarding, let's say, ideas. So yeah, we've considered that. We wouldn't be doing this in the earliest beta testing phase, but as soon as we're ready to go, we'll have an option. But on the other hand, I would say the thing that actually gave me that aha moment in my discussion with Craig was the way that NFTs work is that there's beauty in, I would say, the decentralization in that. First, I was talking about auctions and how people can auction their horses, for example, in any existing auction platform. But then the other beautiful part is lending platforms. So people could basically lend their horses, make them available for rent at a monthly rate, and without even racing them, which could be cost effective for some, right? Depending on what the cost of the horse, etc. But it just says that even if, for example, a horse costs more than people can afford, people can still have the option of renting a horse for a few days, for example, and not through something Equine develops, but something that's already available on Cardano and that people are already using. It's kind of beautiful in that way, where there are multiple routes basically for this. But yes, we do want to be able to onboard players, and even non-paying players, but without affecting the main, let's say, the core community or the players who actually own horses, etc. So
one of the ways that we're looking, that we at least in theory are thinking of, is that the beta platform, once the beta is done and we've got a mainnet, we don't have to tear it down. We could keep the beta platform on and then have a way, maybe people could mint a horse for free and then play for free on the testnet, basically on the beta platform for a little while, so that they can get used to the game and the different mechanics. And then either we would make that limited in time, like that you could get a free horse and play with it for a few weeks or something, or we'd have a mechanism for that. But basically they could just play on the testnet, which is free, right? They could just get free money from the faucet, buy an equine horse on the testnet and play for a little while, so that they could get used to the game. Because I'm not sure that I want to make a whole separate workflow on the main platform for people with free horses. So either, like Fahad said, you could maybe simply rent a horse for a little while to try the main net game and actually play with money, and or do only free races if you want for a little while. Or we could have a parallel platform, keep the parallel platform, which would already exist, basically our beta, and just keep it on the testnet and have a way for people to onboard onto the testnet platform for a limited time to play around.
As long as we can do that without players having to handle the switch to a testnet wallet, that's, I'd say, pretty. I haven't tinkered with it enough to know how user friendly it is, but if we can remove that obstacle. But anyhow, that's a different subject.
Actually, if people don't know anything about blockchain, I would say that having a testnet wallet is a great idea, because then they can mess up. They can give their secret key, they can do all the mistakes that they want, and they'll only lose their testnet wallet. So people that don't know crypto probably should onboard onto the testnet and make their mistakes. Yeah. And once they feel confident that they're doing the right thing, then they could move on to the mainnet with actual money and probably be less susceptible to mistakes, errors, or even fraud or anything. So on the contrary, I think let them mess up on the testnet. And I think
to me, that it might be also intimidating, so that it becomes a hassle. But anyhow, there's also been, we haven't explored this actually in detail, but we've seen there's a solution that's been developed by NewFi Wallet, I think, team, where they've built basically a social account based custodial wallet solution, where people can just sign in, for example, with their Google account, and then use it without even interacting with a let's say without creating their own wallet. Obviously, it's not our preference in terms of we want people to own their horses and own their assets, etc., properly by having them in their own wallets. But if it is an onboarding option, I think it would be really great to have people being able to actually join and play without even having to figure out first how to create, for example, a wallet. I think Vesper Wallet has a few other onboarding options. So all of these require, I'd say, to be included in our user acquisition plan.
Sure, I agree. I mean, but I would leave that onto the wallets then, and I would still have the wallets play on the testnet for the beta and for free onboarding, because then it's free. There's no fees for ADA. There's no nothing. You can just go on the testnet and have everything there. And switching to testnet for most wallets is pretty easy. There's usually just a drop down somewhere that says mainnet that you never clicked on, but you can just click on it, and usually you've got pre-production testnet, preview testnet. You've got everything there, so you can just click pre-production testnet. Then you'll have no wallets. You can create a wallet on the testnet, and you can just go. For people that already know crypto, it's very simple, and for people that don't know crypto, well, they will have to learn anyway at some point, or get a wallet that takes everything out of their hands. But I'm not a big advocate for that. But I can see how that would make onboarding better.
Yep. The question saying, with ADA price surging 80% in December, did it go that way? Yeah, it did. Has the team considered using stable coins for the game's economy instead, or alternately, within Oracle be used to adjust ADA prices automatically? It's a great system. It's a great question. Sorry. Seeing that USDM is I don't think it's out yet. I think it's about to. I think it was delayed a bit, but depending on how well that works, I think in general we do see value in having things like race entry fees in USDM. Breeding fees are more actually anyway expected to be on a sliding scale, regardless of the ADA exchange rates, for example. But entry fees, for example, for races absolutely makes sense to be in a stable coin, or at least on a dollar basis. So the switch for us technically would be switching the token that is used, the native token that is used on the blockchain. It all depends on the success of that option. We also don't want to build everything based on one and then being stuck with it, basically. But the fact that we have the option to switch, I think, makes us ready for this. Oracle being used to adjust prices, ADA prices automatically, is an interesting alternative, actually. Simplest option is to just stick to an ADA price and adjust, for example, on a lower frequency, like once per month. But linking it to an Oracle is a bit more elaborate solution, but it would allow for more frequent updates.
But I think a lot of people would push back against it. I've seen a lot of people on Cardano being mad that you're trying to peg to a currency, which is kind of philosophically it's just backwards, right? You would want Cardano to just be super high in value and stable, rather than pegged to a currency. That would make the price of races fluctuate wildly for now, and yeah, I don't know that we would do that, but yeah, maybe adjusting if it goes 10x and then prices make no sense, we would of course adjust the price of races, like Fahad said, maybe every month or something, when the foals are born, at the time where everything changes in equine every month, where everybody gets older, the babies are born and everything, we could adjust the price of races a bit also at that moment.
Which is how we expect breeding fees to also be adjusted.
Yeah, true enough.
Okay, please explain to the community the concept of the instanced races. There's been some talk on race fill rates and how the instanced race concept can help solve this and keep the game moving. Rather, it's not about race fill rates, but rather, I mean, yes, I guess it does tie into the equation. So instanced races are the idea of races having not really unlimited, but virtually an unlimited capacity of entries, which means instead of doing, for example, if we had, imagine in an hour, we had, for example, 120, it's just a very extreme example just to illustrate. Say we had 120 horses racing within an hour. Instead of having to do 10 races of 12, we could do just one race in that hour. And then whether it's 12 horses that enter, or whether it's 120 or 1,200 horses that enter, all it would do is it would split the race into the right number of races without having to dilute the schedule with too many races. We already kind of have a lot of races because we want to meet a wide variety of conditions based on the distances, based on ages, handicaps, etc. But so we already kind of have that. But at least what we don't need to do is we don't need to have an even more diluted list of races just by splitting the number of races. So instance races allow us to have basically a race, or most of our races will be instanced anyway, so that it's not going to have to be capped at the field size, but rather beyond the field size, any number can subscribe and it will split the races accordingly so that there's multiple of them. I hope this answers that.
Basically the problem that we were imagining is if hundreds of people want to get in a race but there's only 12 spots, then a lot of people register and then don't actually get in the race and they get frustrated. So we made a lot of races to be instanced like this. It's like an instant dungeon basically in World of Warcraft or something like that, where you can just get infinite people inside, and then you'll just split it in teams of 12, and then there's going to be a lot of races in parallel. That's the beauty of having a virtual horse racing game in that sense. So nobody gets left out. Basically, if you register for an instance race, you are going to race. And
as
then,
long as more than 3 horses show up.
Yeah, as long as 4 horses get in there. But yeah, hopefully, for the point is those should be popular races. Those races are necessarily have a high statistical probability of running.
Yeah. If you decide to wait, say, 2 seasons to activate a horse, would it have to compete against horses that grew during that period? Well, the beauty of how the racing schedule works and the whole system is that it caters always to the age gaps between horses, so that the 2-year-olds will always, and actually the maiden horses will always start in maiden races. And then once they've grown out of maidens, there's a set of 2-year-old races that they'll be competing in. And there's always that age-based, let's say, category that they're going to be racing in. And for some race types, there are options where you can jump and race with older horses with some handicapping applied. There are some other races that don't even have the handicapping applied if you're really frisky, but I wouldn't really recommend racing a 2-year-old versus an older horse. So yeah, they won't have to compete against horses that grew during that period. Actually, naturally, they wouldn't want to. And the system is designed to cater for that, which is the same in non-virtual, I'd say, real horse racing, where there's the whole schedule is based on age, and 2-year-olds always race with their own generation, at least for the most part, until they reach a certain age, and same for 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, and so on. So this is I hope this answers. When will we get the new white paper? First, the racing guide that we already promised you guys, and I just showed a bit of today. White paper will need that incorporated well. So we already have that white paper in the draft form. We don't want that out before we get this first out and make sure everything's kind of working well. That's one. Oh, that's the end of questions from here. But before that, I will just read a couple I spotted in chat. There was a question from, actually, I missed that segue, but I will come back to it now. Utero was asking, yes, when, actually, he was joking, but he's saying, yes, when token airdrop. When we mentioned stable coins and their implementation, there's, for the whole economy of the game, we kind of want to also get the community thoughts about token for equine being used as the main, let's say, game token, meaning for entry fees, meaning basically horse holders, for example, again, not a promise, please let nobody speculate too much on this statement. It's a question rather than a commitment. But if, for example, horse holders got or airdropped some equine tokens conceptually, and then the game actually used these tokens for racing, so whenever you wanted to race, you get a bunch of tokens either that you already hold, or whether you get from somewhere else, or whether you get them from the platform and then use them to race and also use them to breed, to pay the breeding fee. How would the community feel about the concept versus using ADA? We are committed to ADA right now as a solution, but we are also keen to consider whether that option is actually a positive way forward for equine for the time coming. So that's something I had in mind. There's a question from Daniger. Will I be able to race my horses in Q1 2024? I will say this. I would say based on our planning, we're hoping to be able to get the public testnet version within Q1 2024. This is the target. this is not the mainnet release. Mainnet release should follow soon after. If we manage to do that ahead of schedule, that would be great. If we manage to meet the schedule, that would still be great. If we don't manage to meet the schedule, we'll be trying our best to be as close as possible to that. So I hope that it helps. That is probably the only question. Moonboy is saying, why not being able to use both? And there's an answer of only if it has nice tokenomics. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, if you allow both, then you're kind of killing the purpose of having the token. Because, yeah, why would people take the token? If we're going to use it more like the Game Pass, the first Pioneer Pass, for example, it's not really going to be supported in that way. As in, it's not the same as having a token become the main way, where depending on the number of horses available, it's just a whole shift to an economy basis in the token. Anyway, just a thread there to get thoughts and opinions, to know how the economy feels, how the community feels about this token approach. I know we've already mentioned and discussed this many times over the growth of Ecoin, but this is more of a recap and seeing kind of how tokens have developed over time from being more of a very experimental thing to now being, let's say, adopted at a high level for many different projects, etc. And I think it's the right time for us to also see also how the community feels about this as a direction. It won't be something instant. It will need quite a lot of work, actually, including legal work, etc. But we are not dismissing that option and want to know what people feel. Anyhow, thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. Happy New Year to those we haven't reached that to yet. We appreciate the turnout. It's actually pretty nice. I'm happy to see this attention and excitement. We hope to roll out more exciting updates soon. It was great having you guys all here. I wish you all a great rest of the weekend, and see you guys in the next download.
See you.
See you guys.